Hey guys, happy Saturday. Get this bug off my seat, or at least over. I figured what I would do this week, and I know you can't see me right now, you're seeing this lovely white background here. There's a brand new tub I haven't even used yet, but I figured the white background would help show off these guys. I wanted to show Midnight Rider and Incognito's clutch. Now obviously there was a bit of an adventure along the way with these guys, given the incubation issues I had and things. But we did have a pretty good hatch, and by pretty good, 9 out of 10 babies hatched. I have one baby that has an issue, which I'll show you. Now the crap you see in the bin here, these guys were incubated on vermiculite, and as such, you know, they often come out of the incubator pretty dirty. I'll rinse off some, but some of them really don't tolerate being rinsed off much, and so you know, I keep them wet. As you can see, there's a fair amount of water in there right now. The water dish is empty by design to bring them out here. Obviously, it won't be when they go back inside. But these guys just hatched within the past few days, with the last one I'll show you just hatching this morning. But I wanted to comment on the vermiculite because people in the past have accused me of having snakes loaded with mites. Literal true story. From a gentleman who apparently slept in bed with his snakes, telling me that I was a shitty snake owner. And he took a picture off my profile, which was a baby that had just come out of the incubator, and said it was loaded with mites and it was just vermiculite. Now these guys can be a little on the defensive side. They're not too terrible typically. Sumatrans compared to like the Borneos you guys saw before. There's one in here, the next one actually, who is a real Prickosaurus rex. And this is not hot. I know you can see that it's in the sun a little bit, but it's literally cool from being inside. Also, it's white, so it's not really taking in as much heat. So this is baby number one here. You can see, you know, there's some huffing and puffing and a little bit of nervousness, but you just saw me pick him up with no issue. Picking him up from here might be a little bit different because now he's on an unfamiliar surface. So we'll see how that goes. I may get bit in this video, but this is the first baby to hatch. Like I said, Midnight Rider to Incognito. Before people ask, these are not going to hit general sale, so you might as well not even bother asking that question because it'll be a waste of your time and mine. This is a small clutch to begin with, 9 babies. One of them has an issue, as I mentioned, so that one's off the table for anything other than a pet purpose, which leaves 8. I have 3 people I'm obligated to this clutch, and I need holdbacks from this clutch, given that Midnight Rider, this is his first deal. So you can see some of the other babies that I've shown in the past didn't have as much pattern back here. That's definitely coming dominant from Midnight Rider. I have baby pictures of him somewhere, and he was very heavily patterned. Now obviously he's not as he's older, but his babies look to be very similar, and this clutch seems like he dominated in that regard. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop. It's also why I need to keep a bunch of them to see how they do develop and learn for the future on what I want to keep. And let me see, like I said, they might be a little more defensive on here. Come on. I need you to cooperate a little bit. I know. Come here. I got you. Good job. You can see, hopefully, the eye color is silver. And I've talked about that before, where people hit me up and they're like, oh no, I want orange eyes. And I don't bother responding. These eyes will change, which later on, when I get some of these guys on the channel, I'll show you them and I'll remind you to look at the eyes and see that the eye color has changed. But you can see for a baby that just hatched, this was the first one, so it was probably 3 days ago now. It's very weary, it's paying attention, but its first instinct isn't to lash out and bite. Very common with the Sumatran shorttails. Not so common necessarily with the Bloods and Borneos. Does still happen. It's not as common. Now this baby here is completely different, and we'll see. You know, I haven't touched this baby in a couple of days, but you can see immediately he's in a much more defensive position, more tongue flicks. He's turning and paying much more attention to what I'm doing, and there's a lot more going on. You can see his movement there. I'm actually going to grab him with this just because, as I've said in the past, I'm not looking to create negativity. So I'll put him in my hand here so you guys can see him. And he may flop and he may try to bite. He may even succeed. But I won't put him on the white background since he's more nervous. I want to keep this positive. But you can see he's huffing and puffing. You can see the same as the last baby where he's got the silver eyes, hopefully. I have the camera turned the other way, so I can't see what's on camera and what's not. But this baby's got a lighter colored head, similar patterning down by the tail. You know, as I was leaning, if I'm leaning towards holdbacks, the last one I showed you, I like a little bit better than I like this one. But it's tough to judge right away. You know, they do progress and they all change so much. It's easy to get enamored with head color, which I have been a victim of in the past, and that's not always the best way to pick. You know, my ultimate goal with these is to eliminate the brown. These babies definitely came out with more brown than I anticipated, but as I mentioned, Midnight Rider did have a fair amount as a baby, so we'll see how these develop and how I end up working them into the future breeding program here. You know, it's all a learning curve, even for those of us that have been doing it for a while, and you've got to kind of play around and figure it out. Let's move on to baby numero tres. Another nice dark baby, silver eyes. I don't remember how this one was as far as touching it went. It looks a little defensive, but not overly so. And I'm just going to be gentle and gently manipulate it up. And we will gently put this little fella down here for you to take a look at. A little bit darker head on this one than the last one. Not quite as dark in my opinion as the first. I really like the darkness in the first half of his body. You know, breaks up a little bit more towards the tail and we get more of that pattern like his father, as I mentioned. I don't mind the white at all, and I like when the white stays with the adults. I think that contrast looks really cool. So it's this color that I'm looking to eliminate. I like the darker color, and that will get darker as the animal ages. It's just a question of how dark does it progress. Both parents are very dark. You haven't seen Midnight Rider on the channel yet, but he is the snake that's in the photo for my channel. There's two, Ron Burgundy, the blood python's on there, and then Midnight Rider is the sumatran that's on my channel, like cover page or whatever you call it. So that is these animals' father, even though I haven't had him on the channel yet. So you guys have sort of seen him in that regard. Let's see how this guy is when I pick him up here. So you can see, like I said, they're not looking to be mean. They're nervous, but they're thinking and they're reacting accordingly. I'm being very calm and deliberate, not threatening, and so everything's all right. And the reason that I left the water dishes in there, but I'm not using them, is so that I can do this and stack these bins while they're out here, and the water dish keeps it from being on top of them. Now let's go for baby number 4. This is one of my favorites so far. He looks very nervous right now, as you can see by the flattened portions of his body and the huffing and puffing there, the rapid fire tongue flicks. So he might be one that might be more apt to strike. We'll see what happens here. Like I said, nice and slow and deliberate, consistent movements, and you can see he's all right. Now he still has a lot of pattern down there, but he's got like a tail, a dorsal stripe. I don't know why I'm yelling all of a sudden. But I like the busyness of the pattern down there a little bit more than the others. I think he's going to be a really, really cool looking adult. I just like really his whole get up here. Now he seems a little bit more apt to kind of explore around a bit. Very, very cool stuff so far. Like I said, there's 9 babies. We're on to number 4 here. I'm kind of going quick because the Borneo video that we did with the clutch, although there were more babies, there was 15 in that clutch, it was way longer than I intended. But this so far is one that I'm definitely likely to keep, you know, whether it's male or female. We'll see what happens. I don't sex these guys right out of the egg. But like I said, I really like the pattern there. And obviously he's a little bit more confident than the previous 3. You can see he's more moving around, checking things out, a little bit more curious, and less apprehensive and defensive. You know, there was a little bit initially because things were different, and then very quickly he decided, okay, you know, this situation's cool, and now I'm going to have a problem getting the other bins on top of him because he wants to cruise. The downside to confident babies is they're harder to deal with like that. So we'll get that in there, and then we gently put that on there, put these guys back in, and we'll move on to baby number 5. These ones are on a different rack, so that's why the tubs are a little bit different. This is number 5. Leaning into the sun here and changing the light on you. Number 5 looks like he's going to be a bit more defensive, he or she. I just say he all the time. So, you know, I like to touch them first and see their initial reaction. You can see he's pulling away, but he's not turning around to fire or do anything like that. So I feel like I can gently manipulate him. And as long as I don't do something outside of his comfort zone, he should be all right. He's still got a little goo on him. Definitely happens from time to time. A lot more tail pattern than the past few there, as you can see down there. Definitely much more so than the last one. A little bit lighter head color, a little bit more brown up the sides here. So this is a baby that, you know, for those people that I have obligations to, might be more likely to be available to them. Doesn't mean that this baby won't be spectacular and finish very strong. It just means for my personal projects and what I'm looking for, this baby doesn't have as much as, you know, the last one did. All of these are going to be very, very nice animals. You can see already, I mean, some people have adults that aren't this dark. So coming out of the egg like this and knowing that they have 3 years or more ahead of them of getting darker, you can see where these animals will get very, very nice. Come here, I know. You know, and they're just such cool animals. I love sumatrans, because even the one that was a total piece of junk the other day was calm today. They calm down so quickly and they just get into this mode of like, let's figure out what's going on. Now, as we get further and further, these guys are essentially younger and younger and less time in here, so they may be more defensive. This is baby number 6. Looks like this one might be a little bit defensive too. I see a little huffiness, so we'll just be gentle again. Gently lift him up and get him into a situation. You can see more apprehensive than some of the others, staying focused on my face right now and not paying attention to anything else around him. So that tells you he's nervous and that he sees that I am a potential threat. So now my hand is kind of just the ground, so he's not as upset at that. He's paying attention to me. If I were to get close to my face, he would probably take a shot at me. This baby's got a lot of busy pattern going on, which is cool. You know, pattern's not something I always look for because you're gonna lose a lot of it as they age. But the cool thing is when they're in shed, you will see that pattern. So while it disappears in their normal color phase, you do get to see it when they shed. Plus he's got a little cool ghost or something in his spot there, a little face going on. That's pretty cool. Yes, check him out. I love these animals. They're my favorite species to work with in this regard. African rocks will always have my heart, but this video would be a lot different if this was baby African rocks. There would certainly be more bloodshed. That much is for sure. Now let's see, this guy had some, and this guy, like I said again, I just always call them all males, had some umbilicals still attached. Let me see if it's off yet. It is not quite off yet, so you can see that there. If it doesn't come off within the next day or so, I'll have to remove it myself. So we're gonna kind of do this one a little bit short, keep him wet and let him work that off. Usually it falls off on its own. If it doesn't, then there are methods for me to tie that off. But like I said, I don't think it's an issue. He came out on his own, and sometimes they come out a little bit early. They decide they're ready for the world. Now this is the one that has the issue. This is baby number 8. Let's see how this one's being. This one's in a lot of water here. So as you guys know, there were some incubation issues with this clutch because I lost power. Now this baby may or may not ultimately thrive, but he did pip and hatch on his own. And so I kind of feel like you have to at least give him the opportunity, but you can see right here, he was likely, he got stressed in the egg. Looks like he got wrapped up into his umbilical cord, and to be honest, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to pass food. He doesn't appear to be suffering. He appears to be alert, normal in all of his behaviors and mannerisms. As I said, he pipped on his own, hatched on his own. I didn't assist him in any way. What should have been the first red flag for me is he pipped out of the side of the egg down near the bottom, which doesn't happen very commonly. They usually pip out through the top, but I didn't think too much of it. And now obviously if they're in a clump of eggs, sometimes that's different, but I always separate my eggs. But you can see that that's real tight through there. So when I do offer him food, it's going to be a very, very small meal. And if he can pass food and grow and shed and do all that on his own, then he will have a pet-only home. If he cannot, then I will have to humanely euthanize him, which we call pithing. And it'll be unfortunate to have to do that, but I will. And then I will give him to somebody that has a snake eater so he doesn't go to waste. You know, sometimes these things are a part of breeding and it's something that you have to deal with. It's unfortunate. It really stinks. He's a beautiful animal. You know, he seems to have a good personality, but you know, that's a real tight fuse through there. So it's really going to be questionable whether he's able to pass food. And like I said, it's probably to do with the incubation issues. Sometimes they get stressed out from the temperature changes and things. And so he may have moved in such a way where he got wrapped up and then developed like that. And so what happens is as he's growing in the egg and developing, that restriction of that cord doesn't allow him to grow normally. And so you end up with something like that. And that's just an assumption. I wasn't inside of the egg, so I don't know 100% that that's what happened. But based on how it looks and fused and where he pipped and all of that, that would be my guess as to what happened. But like I said, I already have a pet-only home lined up for him if he does thrive. Unfortunately, I think that that's going to be a kink that's going to be hard for him to overcome. You know, if the kink was here or there, you know, down here makes it difficult for them to go to the bathroom. Up there is going to make it difficult for him to eat. Something in the middle, you know, by then your food's partially digested, smaller, it doesn't have as much space to pass through. So this animal probably throughout his life, if he does do well, is always going to be limited on the meal size that he can take. But I'm a firm believer, if you fought your way out of that egg through that disability, you at least deserve the chance to thrive. I know some people would pith this animal right away. I always root for the underdog, and I feel like he's already shown some fighting spirit, so I'm going to let him continue to do that and see what goes. But you can see nice healthy tongue flicks, and he reacts the way you would expect him to react, but you can see how he's holding his head, that it's definitely fused there in a way that it's not designed to be fused there. So we'll see what happens. I'm rooting for him, but I'll keep you guys updated either way on how it goes. And we'll just all hope for the best for the little guy, whatever's best for him. You know, it's hard to tell with snakes because they don't show pain like we do and things like that. So I can't tell you, yes, he's in pain, or yes, you know, no, he's not. I don't know. What I do know is his behavior and reactions to situations seems to be fairly normal. And he did what he's supposed to do and fought his way out of his egg. This one just hatched this morning, so I haven't even held this one yet. Already it's being a little more reactive than some of the others. But it hasn't really had time to settle. Pretty cool baby. This is another one that, you know, if I'm making my choices, I might let this one go to those obligations that I have, just based on some of the color and pattern and things that I'm looking at. But I will, you know, get them all feeding and doing all that stuff and make an informed decision, you know, once I see them after a little bit of time. These guys, even before their first shed, will darken. It's pretty crazy. For those of you that don't know, shorttails aren't like other python species. So a lot of other python species within their first 2 weeks will go through their first shed. Many of them within 10 days. So usually 10 to like 17 days, somewhere in there is pretty typical for most python species. These guys take anywhere from 3 to 6 months typically to have their first shed. So a lot of times people are selling these animals before they've ever even had their first shed. It's very common because typically they're pretty good eaters, so they're ready to roll usually by the time they're, you know, 5 or 6 weeks old, sometimes earlier. and you know, they may not shed for a while. I have babies that hatched this year months ago that still haven't shed. I've only had maybe 3 or 4 sheds altogether this season so far. So that's definitely different than other python species that people breed. Might as well put this one down. It seems to be being all right. So it's definitely like a shock. If you didn't know that going in and you bred, you'd probably think something's wrong. And people are used to not offering food to other species until they have their first meal. If you waited, or until they have the first shed, excuse me, if you waited on these guys, some of them might die by then, depending on how much yolk absorption and stuff they had. Like a baby like this absorbed all of its yolk, but it's not really sitting too fat. It just came out today. So the yolk that's in there is not a sustainable meal for a super long time. This is a baby I would like to see. I obviously like to see them all take food within a week or two. But this is a baby where if it went beyond like 6 or 7 weeks, I would start to get concerned. I've had babies hatch out that I wouldn't be concerned in the first 3 months because they're so robust and they have so much yolk and their body condition's so good. And that just varies, you know. They all come out a little bit different. Sometimes even within a clutch, there's one that you're worried about and there's one that you're not. But this is a baby that, you know, and these babies in general are pretty, you know, they're not packed full of yolk. So I would like to see them get rolling within their first month. I've never had a Sumatran that didn't take off eating wise, and I probably just jinxed myself, but I'll take that risk. The last Sumatran clutch I had, those chrome heads, all 20 took the first time I offered. I think they were 6 or 7 days old, and every single one of them ate first time. And then when I offered frozen thawed for the first time, which was like their 3rd meal, I want to say 14 out of 20 took frozen thawed on the first time offered. That's just how Sumatrans are. Usually it's like 8 out of 11, 11 out of 14, you know, numbers like that take first meals. The 20 out of 20 surprised even me. I mean, you never expect 100% odds a week in, but that's what happened. So I'll cut this short. Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing this clutch. The ones that I keep will definitely be on the channel in the future, so you guys will be able to keep an eye on them. Plus keep an eye on my Instagram and Facebook and things like that. I'm always posting pictures on there, Facebook groups, things like that. Where are you going? You're wandering off, going off camera. Can't have that. You're a superstar. But I look forward to seeing how these guys develop and everything. Hopefully there's no issues from the incubation process. You know, I do have some concerns because of that. Be unfortunate if there are, but we'll see how they develop and how they do and how they eat and everything else. Movement wise, everybody seems pretty good. And they seem to have good demeanor and awareness of what's going on around them. So we'll see what happens. But thank you guys as always. Don't forget to like, comment. I want to hear what you think about this clutch in general. Let me get this baby off my hands here. Where are you going? That's your home. That's your swamp. No donkey, but that's your swamp. But yeah, comment, like, subscribe, share. You know, the channel is now monetized, which is cool. I've made about $15 so far. So, you know, I'm going to forget about all you guys and retire. But, you know, it's very, very helpful to me. I don't know if you'll be able to see me. Hey, I look terrible because it's the weekend and I don't care. But thank you guys so much for all of that. Just keep sharing and keep watching, and I'll keep making videos. I'll be hitting the road in about, I don't know what the date is today. Today's like the 5th. Hitting the road in less than 2 weeks. I'm going to shoot a lot of material the end of September, so I'll probably have videos to go for a while. Especially with winter coming and not being able to shoot as much outside. We'll be back inside before you know it. But definitely going to be shooting a lot of cool stuff. So don't unsubscribe right now. There's a lot of cool stuff coming, and make sure you have your notifications on because I am posting stuff from time to time. I was going to do a giveaway. Nobody got the right answer this past time, but I will be giving away some stuff, and I'll figure out some stuff, maybe do some memberships and things like that, which I'll be talking to you guys and getting your input on. So don't forget to hit those post notifications so you get those. All right. Thank you guys. We'll see you.